Can you pretend to be my boyfriend for a day? That's what she asked him. A complete stranger she'd only ever served coffee to every morning. A single dad who barely spoke, who carried grief in his eyes like a weight he couldn't put down. She was desperate, terrified of facing the people who'd made her childhood a living nightmare. She expected him to say no, to walk away like everyone else had. But what he said next didn't just stun her. It changed both of their lives forever. It was a cold Tuesday morning in late October when Zenith Dunn did something she had never done before. She chased a customer out of the cafe. Joel Carver was halfway to his truck when he heard footsteps behind him. He turned and found Zenith standing there in her apron, cheeks flushed from the cold, breath coming in quick bursts. "I'm sorry," she blurted, her voice trembling. "I know this is probably the strangest thing anyone's ever asked you, but," she stopped, pressing her lips together, her hands shaking. Joel froze. He had been coming to Rosie's Corner Cafe every morning for nearly 2 years. In all that time, Zenith had never followed him outside. She had never looked at him with this kind of raw desperation. "Can I talk to you for 1 minute, please?" Joel wasn't good at conversations anymore. After his wife died 3 years ago, he'd built walls so high that even his 7-year-old daughter struggled to climb over them. But something in Zenith's expression, vulnerability mixed with quiet courage, made him stay. "Sure," he said softly, setting his coffee on the hood of his truck. Zenith took a shaky breath. "I have a high school reunion this Saturday. I've avoided it for 10 years. I always throw away the invitation because I can't face them. I can't face the people who made my life miserable." Her voice cracked. "They told me I was ugly, that I'd never amount to anything, that no one would ever love someone like me. And I believed them." Joel felt something tighten inside him. Not pity, recognition. "This year," Zenith whispered, "I decided I want to go. Not to prove anything to them, but to prove something to myself. To show that I survived. But I can't go alone. And I don't have anyone. I work, I go home, I read books. That's my life." She hesitated, cheeks burning. "I see you every morning. You're kind. You're gentle. You always say please and thank you even when you look exhausted. And I know this is ridiculous, but, would you pretend to be my boyfriend for 1 day? Just for the reunion? I'll pay you if you want. I just need someone to stand beside me so I don't feel so small." The words hung in the cold air. Joel should have said no. He should have made an excuse. But instead, a forgotten memory stirred, him at 12 years old, wearing thrift store jeans 2 sizes too big, being mocked, shoved, humiliated day after day. Those scars never fully faded. Looking at Zenith now, eyes filled with fear and hope, he saw a reflection of that broken kid he once was. And he couldn't walk away. "You don't have to pay me," he said quietly. "What time should I pick you up?" Zenith stared at him, stunned. "You'll do it? Really?" He nodded. Something inside her loosened, and for the first time since the reunion invitation arrived, she could breathe. A laugh, relieved and disbelieving, escaped her. "Thank you. You have no idea what this means to me." Saturday came too quickly. Joel stood in front of his closet, trying to remember how to dress for something that wasn't work or grief. His daughter, Steris, peeked in the doorway. "Daddy, you look fancy." "I'm helping a friend," he explained. "The nice lady from the coffee place." Joel paused. "How did you know?" "You told Grandma. And I like her. She gave me a cookie once and said I'm a princess." Joel felt something warm flicker inside him. "Yeah," he said softly. "I like her too." When Joel arrived at Zenith's apartment, his breath caught. She stepped outside wearing a deep emerald dress that flowed around her curves. Her blonde hair framed her face in soft waves. She looked beautiful, undeniably, effortlessly beautiful. "You look," he started, then lost the words. Too much, she asked nervously. I can change. Beautiful, he finished. You look beautiful. Her cheeks flushed pink. You clean up pretty well too. At the hotel ballroom, Zenith's hand tightened on his arm as soon as they stepped inside. Her breath hitched. Joel followed her gaze and saw a group of women near the bar, the kind of polished cruelty that carried itself like a perfume. The ringleader, Veronica Mills, approached with a smile that was all poison. Well, Zenith Dunn. I didn't think you'd show. And who is this? She looked Joel up and down as if he were an object on a shelf. Don't tell me you actually found someone willing to. That's enough. Joel's voice cut through the air like a blade. The room fell silent. He stepped between them. I don't know what happened here that made you think cruelty is something to be proud of. But I know this, Zenith is the kindest, most genuine person I've ever met. She remembers my daughter's favorite color even though I mentioned it once. She makes the world brighter just by existing. You spent years trying to tear her down. Yet here she is, standing beautiful and strong, while you're still the same miserable person you were in high school. Color drained from Veronica's face. She spun on her heel and stormed off, her entourage scrambling behind her. Zenith stared at Joel, tears streaming down her cheeks. No one has ever stood up for me like that, she whispered. Joel wiped a tear from her cheek, his touch gentle. Then everyone before me was a fool. Zenith stared at Joel, tears streaming down her cheeks. No one has ever stood up for me like that, she whispered. Joel wiped a tear from her cheek, his touch gentle. Then everyone before me was a fool. The rest of the night passed in a blur of dancing, laughter, and unexpected healing. They talked to classmates who were genuinely kind. One woman even apologized for never stopping the bullying, admitting she'd been too afraid. Zenith accepted it with grace that surprised even herself. For the first time in 10 years, she felt like she belonged. Later, under a sky full of stars, she thanked Joel again. He simply said, "You matter," as if it were the most obvious truth in the world. On the drive home, they talked more deeply than either expected, about her parents, about his late wife, about loneliness, fear, and the fragile hope of second chances. When Joel asked if she'd like to have dinner sometime, a real dinner, not pretend, Zenith smiled. I'd love that. And bring Sterries. I want to know her better. What bloomed inside Joel that night felt like the first warm light after years of winter. Their dinners became a routine, then a comfort, then something like home. Zenith and Sterries bonded instantly. They baked cookies, made messes, laughed until sugar coated the ceiling. Joel found himself smiling again, real smiles, not the ghost-thin ones he'd worn for years. Sterries blossomed too. The quiet girl who'd retreated into herself after her mother's death began to laugh again. She drew pictures for Zenith, asked her to come to school events, and hugged her with all the fierce trust of a child who finally felt safe. 3 months after the reunion, Zenith found a folded piece of paper hidden under Sterries' pillow. She assumed it was a drawing. Instead, it was a letter written in shaky child handwriting. Dear Mommy in heaven. I miss you every day. Daddy is so sad. He doesn't laugh anymore. Can you please send someone to make him smile? Someone who makes good cookies and won't leave us. I promise I'll be good. Love, Sterries. At the bottom, October 19th, the exact morning Zenith chased Joel out of the cafe. When Zenith read it, her hands shook. Tears fell onto the worn paper. You came, Sterries whispered, crawling into her lap. Mommy sent you. Joel read the letter and went pale. He sat beside them, wrapping his arms around both of them. The three of them held each other and cried, grief, love, healing all blending together. Moments later, he whispered, I love you. And so does Sterries. If you'll have us, I'd like to stop pretending this is temporary. Zenith's answer was soft but sure. I love you too. They were married the following spring in Rosie's Corner Cafe. A small, intimate ceremony filled with wildflowers, twinkle lights, and happy tears. Sterries wore a blue dress and scattered rose petals everywhere, giggling the whole time. Everyone agreed it was the most genuine celebration of love they'd ever seen. A year and a half later, they welcomed a baby boy, Cameron. Sterries adored him and proudly announced she was in charge of teaching him everything important. They framed Sterries' letter and hung it in their living room, a reminder of the prayer that brought their family together. Years passed. Their home filled with more laughter, more drawings, more small miracles. Zenith carried their third child, a girl they'd already named Margot. One night, as they watched their children playing, Zenith whispered, "I spent so many years believing I wasn't enough. That no one could love me. But then you looked at me like I was the most beautiful thing you'd ever seen." "You were," Joel said. "You are." She smiled. "Your love taught me that." Joel wrapped his arms around her, both of them gazing at the framed prayer. Zenith asked, "Do you think Margot knows how happy we are?" Joel smiled softly. "I think she's known all along. Because sometimes the most beautiful stories begin with an unlikely question. Sometimes healing comes from the most unexpected places. And sometimes love finds you in the form of a stranger holding a cup of coffee, waiting for his life to begin again." Thank you for listening to this story, and for believing in a love that sees beyond appearances to the heart underneath. If this touched you, share it with someone who needs to remember that they are worthy of love exactly as they are. Real love doesn't care about the size of your body. Only the size of your heart. And Zenith's heart was always big enough to hold a family. She just needed someone brave enough to see it.